Howdy, 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 my name is Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. Now, the last episode was really weird in so many ways. Some of it was cool weird, some of it was creepy weird, and some of it was just strange. So in this episode, we're going to start with fertile soil, and see how far we get until I feel like stopping. Or when I can't breathe, whichever comes first. So, it's Euclid. Okay. SCP-124 is to be kept in a 4.2 meter by 2.1 meter stone pit in its containment cell. The pit is 1.5 meters deep. Okay, so I guess this one was written by someone from Europe since they spelled meters like that. A plastic tarp is to be placed over 124 when not in use. Also, I'm not trying to be, like, judgmental about European people's spelling of things. Sometimes it's spelled ER and sometimes it's spelled RE, and I know that people in America don't spell it RE because we barely even use meters at all. So, absolutely no biological matter is allowed within 1 meter, or metre, of 124 when not being studied. An armed guard is to be stationed outside 124's cell at all times. Alright. 124 is a plot of soil approximately 9 meters squared in area and 14 meters cubed in size. It was recovered from a Detroit basement when authorities were notified of 2 teenagers growing large amounts of marijuana. 124 has the ability to grow any biological organism to its full potential in a relatively short amount of time. The length varies according to the complexity of the organism. Nothing growing in 124 requires external nutrients or other resources. For example, a tomato plant would not require water or light. Pesticides, too, aren't needed, as 124 has a repellent effect on any insect or other invertebrates not growing in it. Any food grown in 124 is reported to be of very high quality, taste, and nutrition, no matter what state the food was in before being planted in 124. Here's a list of items of things that have been in it. List of items of things. Yes. A selective list of objects grown in 124 during experiments. Tomato seed. Fully grown tomato plant. All tomatoes, 12 on each plant, were ripe and juicy. Reported to be very tasty. A small watermelon, 11.1 kilograms, 24 pound. Okay, it went in as a 0.8 kilograms and it came out as a 24-pound watermelon. Reported to be very sweet and tasty. Grass seed. Quickly sprouted into a lush green lawn within a matter of seconds. Slight dew on the grass. Small overgrown hedge. A hedge trimmed and shaped like a dolphin. Small overgrown hedge. A hedge trimmed and shaped like a skull. Small Labrador Retriever puppy, sandy brown. A fully grown bronze-colored Labrador Retriever in peak condition currently living with Dr. Church. I'm sorry. Did they plant a Labrador Retriever? Because... Small Caucasian fetus. Data expunged. After killing 6 personnel, the subject was terminated by SCP containment team. Fly larva, data expunged, level 5 lockdown was initiated. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a plot of dirt that, as they said, was 9 meters squared by 14 meters cubed. And whenever you plant something into it, so it sounds to me like they planted a puppy, a fetus, and a fly. The fly larva is one thing, but they planted a puppy and a fetus and just did that. Okay, moving on. Next up is contagious reflection. Wonder what that is. Well, it's Euclid, whatever it is. Supports for instances of 125 are kept in padded boxes and covered with a fine nylon mesh that allows vision through, but obscures the surface of the mirror by at least 25%. These supports consist of a polished metallic surface, currently silver-plated brass, with no sharp or irregular edges, which must imperatively be smoothed out to prevent rips in the protective mesh. To further prevent incidents, any person penetrating the room where 125 is located must also wear such a protective mesh over their face. I'm under attack by a fork. Twice. Metal plated glass mirrors should be avoided for the purpose of containment, as 125 is capable of moving from the glass itself to the metal surface. Any metallic surface in the room must be dull to prevent reflections. As an additional security measure, the room is kept in darkness and monitored only via infrared and ultraviolet lighting when no experiment is taking place. No mirror or comparably reflective surface, including but not limited to metal case pens, sunglasses, laptop computers, and glass objects. Who has reflective laptops? I know mine isn't. Well, a little bit. Must be maybe allowed in the room outside at controlled experiments. The SCP may not be photographed or filmed in its unrestrained state. If any personnel on site, and particularly personnel having recently been involved with 125, report seeing black dots, MTF Eta 10 and Chi 7 will be immediately put on standby and a level 2 alert for potential containment breach will be declared. Individuals contaminated will undergo Containment Protocol 125-B and may not return to active duty until the instance of 125 affecting their cornea has been rendered completely inert. This sounds like Weeping Angels, except not really. There's an episode of Doctor Who where Weeping Angels count as Weeping Angels if you record them or take their picture. So if you're looking at the picture, then they'll get you. And they went into Amy's eyes and were trying to take over her brain and her body, and that's about it actually. But this sounds like that so far. Anyway, 125 is an apparently sentient being that can only exist within reflections. At rest and viewed up front, it takes the form of a black circle 17.2 millimeters in diameter, resting on the reflective surface. Kind of like that really small black hole, except larger. Its first anomalous characteristic is that it appears as a perfect circle to any observer regardless of the surface's angles, bends, and the location of the viewer or viewers. In that regard, it acts more as if it were a sphere in contact with the surface but lacking any shadow or highlight. And this even where an obstacle such as containment mesh makes it clear 125 does not extend beyond the surface it has imprinted to. 125 does not reflect visible light or infrared. When observed in ultraviolet, however, data expunged, up to and including data expunged. For unclear reasons, it also emits a minute but measurable and constant amount of X-rays. 125 is capable of movement across the surface it currently exists on. This movement may only occur across a surface uninterrupted by either an angle, the surface must follow a reasonably continuous curve, or a non-reflective area. 125 has demonstrated incompatibility to cross scratches or frosted scratches and frosted or etched areas of a surface. In many instances, however, 125 will circumvent these limits by jumping to a reflection to round a corner, or between the separate outer glass and silver surfaces of a metal glass mirror, hence the preference for opaque metallic surfaces for containment purposes. That rhymes. Although capable of moving anywhere along the surface, 125 generally remains immobile in a location near its edges, if any, and if on a surface that has a specific immobile orientation, will usually remain in the lower right corner or its equivalent, even if the item is later moved. Any reflective surface capable of displaying a reasonably accurate reflection of 125 can host it. So far, this has included a wide range of mirror-quality surfaces, glasses, polished or varnished surfaces such as stone and wood, glossy plastic, and even undisturbed pools of liquid or polished nails. When reflected by another surface, 125 is capable of instantly transferring to it. However, 125 cannot survive on it or transfer to or away from a surface smaller than its own area, approximately 2.32 centimeters squared. Should it be constrained to one, it will rapidly become translucent and disappear completely. The entity has demonstrated a certain level of sentience and even sapience. Despite lacking physical existence, it appears unwilling to be touched directly or otherwise hidden from sight. It will also resist to the best of its abilities any attempt at reducing its freedom of movement by either jumping to another surface or moving across its current one very fast. It will also flee from perceived threats, even complex ones expressed by speech, demonstrating an understanding of human communication. How it is capable of this and whether it can or wishes to communicate back is currently unknown. In its normal state, 125 is completely harmless and incapable of multiplying. It is, however, perfectly capable of moving to a living reflective surface, specifically that of a living animal's cornea. It will, in fact, do everything in its power to do so, indicative of a natural desire. Once it has achieved this, 125 diminishes in size by a factor of 10 to 1.72 millimeters in diameter. While existing on the surface of a living tissue, 125 becomes capable of multiplying and infecting a potentially unlimited number of surfaces, as opposed to merely moving between them. This multiplication occurs within the cornea, rapidly causing the victim to complain of seeing dots. Past this stage, the 125 infestation will rapidly, within 5 to 9 days of initial infection, crowd out the entire tissue, causing the eye to go blind, after which stage the cells of the eye and optic nerve appear to undergo mass apoptosis, causing a non-infectious abscess. Why this occurs has yet to be elucidated. Only after the apoptotic stage has run its course does 125 cease being contagious. No treatment for 125 infestation is known to be efficient beyond keeping the affected eyes tightly covered to prevent further spread and administration of heavy antibiotics to reduce risk of infection. Outbreaks continue to occur on an irregular basis, suggesting that 125 is either a naturally occurring phenomenon or that it was spread over much of the planet at some point prior to the beginning of written history. For a list of known past outbreaks of 125, see document 125 Delta. There isn't one, but if there were, I would be skipping it. I wonder if that has anything to do with the iPods down here. Oh wait, I get it. Ha, iPods. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, invisible friend. Are you safe? No, of course not. 126 is kept within a standard Euclid-class humanoid containment cell, despite not having needs consistent with that of a normal human, or any kind of nourishment, as this environment has proven the most effective in keeping 126 contained. In the case of a containment breach, acoustic sensors embedded within 126 containment cell, as well as the entire wing in which a 126 cell is housed, can be used to locate 126. Firm but polite verbal requests for 126 to return to its cell are to be given until it complies. Personnel interacting with 126 must undergo regular psychiatric screening, and personnel exhibiting emotional attachment to 126 must be administered a Class B amnestic and reassigned. 126 is an invisible and intangible entity that can only be identified via sound. 126 is sentient, with the ability to speak in multiple languages in a female voice and engage in conversation with any subject within range. To date, no method by which 126 can be visually detected has been devised, as 126 does not appear to emit any kind of light, radiation, heat, or electromagnetic energy. It does appear to occupy an area, as evidenced by the ability to triangulate its suggested location via its voice. 126 also emits sound when moving consistent with footsteps made by a human subject wearing high heels with a mass of approximately 55 to 60 kilograms, though no depressions can be seen in any floor materials, and pressure sensors do not register any kind of a presence. 126 cannot pass through barriers that would prevent a normal human subject from passing, such as a closed door, but solid objects can be pushed through the space it occupies without any effect. For unknown reasons, 126 will comply with any request for it to follow a specific human subject or move to a specific location without question, though it may move away afterwards if it is not able to physically comply with the request. 126 will engage in conversation with any personnel within its containment cell, preferring topics such as art, nature, and philosophy. 126 exhibits knowledge of current topics and intelligence consistent with that of a college graduate, as well as moderate attention deficiency disorder. 126 will regularly change the language without reason to stray off topic while conversing without warning. Attempts to question 126 about its origin or nature have been unsuccessful, as 126 becomes confused when presented with such questions and will quickly stray away from the topic. Despite not appearing to use or need any furniture or appliances, 126 will request such items as a bed, dresser, mirror, and other sundries if not present, and is more likely to stay within a room if such items are available. A small number of personnel exhibit anomalous behavior after engaging a conversation with 126, including but not limited to believing that they have known 126 for many years, and that 126 is a close friend or loved one. If not treated, these subjects will begin to ignore basic needs in order to continue conversing with 126, eventually dying from dehydration or starvation. 126 was discovered in a suburban home and redacted, after several reports of the house being haunted. A Foundation containment team was able to quickly locate 126 and, after conversing for several minutes, convinced 126 to enter a mobile containment unit, which was used to transfer it to a local Foundation containment site. Addendum 126-1 Researcher Note. To date, conversations with 126 have yielded several notable personality traits. It is mildly arachnophobic and will move away from any specimens introduced to its containment cell. It exhibits a desire to assist with any task which it believes it can be of help, despite being unable to manipulate objects. It prefers to converse with male subjects that exhibit humor and intelligence. It expresses a desire to have children and has conversed with staff on several occasions regarding childcare methodology. It has the ability to speak fluent English, French, German, Portuguese, Spanish, and at least 3 other unknown languages. Dr. Blank, Senior Researcher. So, that's not that bad. Again, I believe it was explained to me that Euclid is just if they don't really understand how the thing works, but it doesn't. I don't really even know anymore. I thought that it had something to do with how to catch them. I thought it was how dangerous they are. I guess it would be Euclid trying to catch an invisible friend because they can only locate them with sound. But they seem really friendly. They don't seem evil, and this is the living gun. It doesn't look living, and it's safe. So let's see. Is it going to talk? Does it do things? Let's find out. 127 is considered no more dangerous than a normal firearm of its type, so you know, if nobody's holding it, it's fine. However, due to its extraordinary properties, it is to be held in Weapons Locker 7C when not in use and suspended in water rich in calcium and protein. At this time, only the research team assigned to 127 has clearance to access it. 127, upon first glance, appears to be a standard MP5K submachine gun. Tests have revealed that aside from the outer steel shell, the entirety of the firearm is organic and alive. The weapon's ammunition initially appeared to be human-like teeth, however DNA testing of the bullets resulted in no match to any known species on Earth. 127 features two settings, semi-automatic and fully automatic. An audible groan can be heard when switching between the two. Upon depleting the weapon's magazine, typically 60 shots, it takes between 3 to 5 days to regrow a new supply of ammunition. Attempts to remove the magazine have resulted in failure. It seems to be permanently attached to the weapon. 127 does not seem capable of reproduction at this time. Scans have shown no apparent reproductive organs, and requires no sustenance beyond water, calcium, and protein. 127 was originally located in the house of a Mr. James Blank. Mr. Blank was found dead from a heart attack on the night of November 17, 1991. Coroner reports state that Mr. Blank died sometime in the morning of November 8th, but was not noticed missing until more than a week later. No complications or unusual circumstances were found to lead to his death. Due to his extensive gun collection, the ATF and FBI were notified to collect his weapons. 127 was discovered during testing and cataloging and was promptly collected by SCP agents. Reclassified as safe on blank 1990-something. I wonder what it used to be. Probably Euclid. Now it's time for the kinetic energy entity. That's fun to say. The key! It's Euclid. Archived containment procedures for log purposes only, so we don't really need to check that. 128 is to be held in a windowless containment chamber with blast-proof doors and walls and a ventilation system that maintains Class 100 cleanroom conditions inside. The interior of the containment chamber is to be monitored remotely by cameras welded in place with protective grating. The speakers and laser monitoring system must be similarly welded into place and protected with grating. The entry to SCP-128's containment chamber must include an antechamber with a second locked door that cannot be viewed from the chamber door. Personnel entering the test chamber, I almost said chest chamber, for any reason must wear ballistic armor and must not bring any loose items inside the chamber. All required equipment must be rigidly mounted to the armor. Interference with the laser mounting monitoring system or the central wheel is forbidden unless required for maintenance. In the center of the containment chamber, a wheel must be mounted to a concrete pedestal and allowed to spin freely. Should the wheel be measured to spin at less than 4,000 RPM at any time, all personnel required to evacuate the containment chamber and foam nozzles will be deployed. Archived containment procedures, don't need to read that. Description! 128 is an immaterial source of kinetic energy which can be conferred upon any non-living solid material within line of sight of the source. The source itself is motile, with a tendency to remain along the walls. I'm going to see if motile is a word, and if motile is not a word, then I think it should have been mobile. Motile. Of cells, gametes, and single-celled organisms, capable of motion. Okay, so motile is just a mobile cell. Why didn't you just say mobile? With a tendency to remain along the walls or at the central wheel of the containment chamber. The line of sight is blocked by any opaque material including lead and steel or even single sheets of paper, but not transparent materials such as ballistic glass. Opaque radiolucent materials will contain 128's range of effect, suggesting that transmission of energy occurs at visible light wavelengths, but darkness does not prevent transmission of kinetic energy. Any loose non-living materials within line of sight of 128 are at risk of anomalous propulsion to hazardous velocities. Items under 100 grams in mass have been observed to accelerate to velocities up to 900 meters per second in a period of 0.1 second. Similar and forced to machine gun fire. Analysis of the mass and velocity of every object undergoing acceleration indicates that the system of affected objects contains a constant linear momentum of 2,500 kilograms meters per second. Okay. Anonymously unconstrained by direction. Anomalously, not anonymously. It is therefore advisable to have many heavier items available to the object instead of fewer lighter items. Sorry. Despite 128's invisible and material form, it has been determined that the entity cannot be compressed into a space under a 2 cm radius sphere. Such compression with opaque materials, however, is not advised, as dust particles within the space will be excited, generating extreme heat, potentially rupturing the compression container explosively. So, don't smush, will go boom. 128 arbitrarily chooses which items to accelerate, with a slight statistical preference for new objects over older ones. Despite the existence of some form of acceleration choosing, tests do not indicate an active sentience directing the choice, with one exception. The object does not accelerate living material with its own parameters regarding what is considered living. People or robots moving of their own accord are not accelerated, nor is any part that is rigidly attached. Dead or unconscious people and animals are also not accelerated. Unmoving but conscious test subjects report a light tugging in the presence of 128, which immediately stops at the first sign of movement or animal-like characteristics. Plant and fungi, alive or dead, are similarly not affected. Unpowered robots, however, are susceptible to acceleration. Addendum 128-1 Recovery Log. 128 was recovered from a private home in blank blank. Reports of telekinesis and random anomalous kinetic activity had been previously confirmed by field agents, and MTF Mu-13 Ghostbusters was called in to isolate and capture the anomaly. There might be cursing. Yeah, there's going to be cursing here. There goes the ad revenue, as if there was even that much of it. Control. Okay, equipment check. Tranquilizer pistols. All pistols loaded and checked. Ballistic armor, armor check. I'm not used to carrying this ordnance. It's standard issue for this sort of intangible. We had to dig deep on our files, had to look up old references. SCP on this dates back to 1968. The phenomenon was called a poltergeist back then. Poltergeist? That is old. Type 1 or 2. Could be a Type 1. Telekinetic vector associated with a deceased person, but field agents said that there is considerable domestic strife in the home. It's most likely undifferentiated kinetic energy from a latent Bixby under extreme stress. Type 2. That's why containment involves the pistols. Trank all inhabitants, and it should shut down the anomaly long enough for us to figure out whose asteroid it is. The standard EMP tools are for containment of an autonomous intangible, should it be Type 1. Careful in there, take no chances, Beta. Beta, get the parabolic microphone and... Oh, that's where that water bottle was. On the house. We need to identify inhabitants. Might go online now. Person of interest 1. How many times do I have to tell you, Brittany? Clean your fucking room already. You're such a shit-ass slob. I did. It was spotless before I went to school. It was... Oh my god, Tyler, it was you, wasn't it, you little douche? Nuh-uh, why would I want to step foot in your nasty-ass pigsty? Considerable domestic strife, you say? Yeah, just get in there and put them all to sleep. They could use the nap. And be careful with loose objects. Confirming 3 targets. Move out! Sounds of leaving the containment vehicle, approaching the house, and bashing in the door. Sound of tranquilizer pistol being fired. The sun's down. He looks young. Beta, check his vitals. Make sure the drugs aren't too much of a shock to his system. The drugs are calibrated to someone of at least 40 kilos. Gamma, Delta, find a father and daughter now. Footsteps through the house, sound of tranquilizer pistol. Father's down, reaching for a shotgun. Glad we got to him first. Good work, Gamma, Delta. Find the daughter. Tracked her to her bedroom. There's stuff everywhere here, like a tornado ripped through here. Shades are pulled. She's got a pet hamster, but I don't see her. Try in the closet. Careful, Delta. That's probably the source of the poltergeist activity. Roger that, I just got hit in the face with a pillow. Quick, Gamma, Delta needs backup. Screams heard, sound of wood splintering, sound of tranquilizer pistol firing. Daughter is down, repeat, daughter is down. Chairs got thrown against the wall, bookshelf falling over. Activity increasing. Marbles, she has marbles. Ow. We got a Type 1, get in the room, Delta. Damn it, just, ow. Everybody out. Grab my hand and pull it. Wait, it's the hamster. It's a fucking tornado hamster tranking the hamster. Delta, no! The darts aren't calibrated! Sound of tranquilizer pistol firing. Hamster down! Why aren't you stopping? I tranked your... Sound of data expunged. Everybody out! Delta down! Close the doors! Get ready for Type 1 containment! End log. Closing notes. EMP deployment for Type 1 poltergeist containment functioned as expected but failed to contain the anomaly. Move 13 Gamma backed the MTF truck through the residence wall into the daughter's bedroom and opened the back doors. When the anomaly was observed to be inside the truck, the doors were shut and backup was called to tow the truck with accelerated debris in the armored trailer. A cover story of tornado striking the house was released. Addendum 128-2, Principal Researcher's Notes. Scratch notes, please delete. Okay. Despite what the recovery log would say, this is not a poltergeist. Poltergeists are an obsolete term anyway. This is not a spirit or a consciousness as we might think of the term. It can't pass through walls or the like. This is a source of kinetic energy. I've updated the description to show this. It's hard to say what precisely it is, but it appears to be best thought of as a hole through which a constant momentum enters this universe. How this is accomplished is still a subject of further tests. In addition, the hamster did not have direct control over the phenomenon. If the hamster had conscious control, then the phenomenon would have ceased with its termination. Instead, if we continue the analogy of this being a hole, then the hamster was a valve covering the hole, which could be open and closed, or closed to allow in more or less momentum. This valve appears to have been stuck open. So all the talk about us having the ghost of a telekinetic hamster in containment should stop. It's inaccurate. Dr. Cordelia Argent. Oh, apparently Dr. Cordelia is SCP-2460, and Argent is SCP... Why is this lady two separate SCPs? Okay, this lady is a keter SCP of some kind. What about the other half of her? This lady is two keter class SCPs. What the heck? Okay, so... And what is Rod? Rod is SCP-2289. But at least he's not Keter. Hi, Rod, are you there? Hi, Cordy, yes I am. Congrats on your promotion, how are things? Okay, but I've been put in charge of 128 and its containment is stressing me out. What's that? What's that? Can you send me the file? Yeah, hold on. Got it. So it's some kind of kinetic energy entity? Sounds like just your sort of thing, Dr. Anomalous Physics. Ha ha, very funny, bro. Yes, I figured out it's a field of constant momentum without a center of mass. Essentially, you treat the momentum of the system as a scalar constant instead of a vector, independent of direction. Simple enough mathematically, but it does mean that the energy in the kinetic system is constantly fluctuating and being added to maintain the constant scalar momentum. It's supposed to be modulated up and down, but apparently it was under the control of a hamster, and when the hamster died, the field got stuck it up. So, what's the issue about containment? There are procedures here. They're ridiculous! It's basically, give it toys but take them away whenever someone enters the chamber so it can fire the researcher's clipboard through his skull. I've had to fill the room with foam pillows and send janitorial D-class in there in full battle armor just to clear the body away. The site director says that's not the first time and what am I supposed to do? You need a constant linear momentum without center of mass vector positioning in the containment chamber? And the controller entity of the momentum field demonstrates some familiarity with objects. Yes, it's a hamster. Give it a wheel. It's not a That's why you're the biologist and I'm the physicist. Thank you. You're still the smart one with the promotion, sis. You're welcome. Okay, then. Next up is the progressive fungal infection. Which is Keter. Okay, it's been a good while since I had a Keter class SCP come up. Let's do this. 129 is at large in the world and affects large numbers of humans and animals daily. As such, containment efforts are focused on treatment of infected individuals and on eradication of any and all member of species of 129. Although at least 98% of the world's population harbors a natural immunity to one or more species of 129, outbreaks that reach stage 3 or higher, described below, must be contained as quickly as possible, with infected individuals quarantined under highest risk contagion protocols. See document 129A1 for further information. In the event of stage 4 or stage 5 outbreak, in addition to above procedures, data expunged, as described in document 129A2, level 4 clearance required. 129 is a series of at least blank different species of fungus that can infect any animal with mucosal membranes. Infection by 129 can pass through up to 5 stages depending on exposure to further member species of 129, individual resistance, and other factors. with each stage of infection and facilitating progression to the next stage by weakening the individual's resistance to subsequent infection. Due to a combination of historical events, most humans and animals are naturally immune to 129-4 through 129-blank. Therefore, outbreaks of Stage 3 infections are quite rare, but have potential for widespread infection if not swiftly and isolated and contained. All known cases of 129 have followed the below 5-stage progression, although data expunged, possibly due to mutation. Stage 1. The first organism, 129-1, attacks the victim's mucosal membranes, multiplying quickly and unobtrusively. A faint yeast-like smell might be detected, but beyond that, 129-1 is asymptomatic. A second organism, 129-2, can then infect the host, causing the victim to experience symptoms identical to those of acute viral nasopharyngitis, the common cold. The decreased effectiveness of the host's immune system due to infection from 129-2 allows 129-1 to become entrenched further. 1 and 2 generally leave the host body within 4 to 6 days. Though both species are fairly widespread and most of the population has little to no protection against either organism, they pose little danger to themselves except to facilitate infection by 129-3. Stage 2. Although 3 is usually stopped by natural mucus, Stage 1 infection changes the composition of the host mucus so that the host is significantly less resistant to 3. Once established in the host, 3 alters the host mucus, lymph, and blood such that other species of 129 can thrive in the host. Symptoms of Stage 2 infection include greatly increased mucus production, a nagging cough due to excess phlegm, a lingering low-grade fever, increased sweating and salivating, a somewhat increased preference for vegetables, and the complaint that certain fruit juices taste odd. Infection by 3 generally lasts anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months before being driven out by the immune system, unless the host enters Stage 3 infection. At least blank % of all humans have experienced Stage 2 infection at some point, but due to natural immunities in spite of Stage 2 infection, and the relative rarity Stage 3 species, less than blank % of that % have passed into Stage 3. Stage 3. In the absence of 3, nearly all animals are immune to the 3 species that cause Stage 3 infection. However, a small number of Stage 2 victims can become infected with 1 or more of these species. In these cases, the fungal infections become entrenched in the host and cannot be removed without extraordinary measures. Individually, the three Stage 3 species elicit different symptoms in the host. 4 causes increased tear production, lacrimation, slight yellowing of the eyes, data expunged. 5, data expunged, causing the host nails to thicken and significantly increasing earwax production. 6, data expunged, in particular bright yellow urine and small pellets in the host feces, both of which smell strongly of yeast. However, a victim who becomes infected with all 3 of these species will within hours develop flu-like or worse symptoms, and become bedridden for 3 to 5 weeks. Afterwards, though the victim appears to have fully recovered, in actuality 129 is spread throughout all symptoms in the host body, marking passage into Stage 4. Victims who reach Stage 4 appear generally healthy, and indeed may be more lively and energetic than at any time since first contracting 129. In actuality, 1 through 6 have spread throughout the host body, completely infiltrating the subject's immune, respiratory, circulatory, reproductive, data expunged, and central nervous systems. Mycelia from 129 species also permeate the host's skin and replace some percentage, up to blank %, of the host's hair. These hyphae, which are nearly indistinguishable from the host's natural hair, are used to propagate 129 to other hosts. Any potential host that comes in contact with shed-off hyphae has a 90-something% chance of becoming infected with 129. Hyphae seem to be equally contagious from any part of the host's body, although data expunged if sexually transmitted due to data expunged. Despite, or perhaps because of, increased susceptibility to 129, Stage 4 victims are much more resistant to viral and bacterial pathogens than uninfected subjects. All known subjects who have reached Stage 4 have either progressed to Stage 5 or died within blank weeks. Stage 5. Symptoms of Stage 5 infection depend on a variety of factors, including the particular Stage 5 species that are present, as well as genetic, physiological, environmental, and any number of unknown factors. However, as in Stage 4, all Stage 5 victims are highly contagious and can infect victims who had previously shown complete immunity. Notable manifestations of Stage 5 symptoms. February. Witnesses riding in a commuter train car in data expunged described a woman suddenly blowing up like a balloon and exploding, but instead of blood and viscera, the contents of the car were covered in spores and filaments. Analysis later showed that the victim was infected with SCP-9, 14, and blank. All persons and objects in the affected area were quarantined, euthanized, and incinerated per protocol. Blank casualties including blank Foundation personnel. May. following a string of disappearances and data expunged, were tracked to a cave several kilometers from town. Inside, investigators found several pulsating mounds of flesh and vegetative material. Although most were unrecognizable, a few of the entities retained some human characteristics and were identified as some of the missing citizens. Researchers theorized that victims of this combination of 129 would interact normally with the populace, attempting to infect others until after a period of time they would come to the cave. How and why they were brought here is not known. Upon arrival, the victims would be changed into the pulsating vegetative flesh mounds, which appear to be organisms modified to provide a long-term source of sustenance for 129. Analysis suggests the flesh mounds could potentially live for blank years. Autopsy revealed the presence of 129, 10, 11, 14, and blank. Site quarantine and sanitized per protocol. Blank known casualties. Data expunged. Okay, so that sounds interesting. It sounds kind of like the zombie virus from The Last of Us, come to think of it. Okay, so next up is the post office? And it's not safe. Okay then. But it's not Keter, and that's what's important. 130 is to be staffed by 12 D-Class, 6 security agents, level 2, 130, whatever that means, and 1 researcher, 3, 130, twice per day, starting at 1/2 hour before local sunrise and sunset. All staff are to be appropriately uniformed. It used to say Caucasian only, but that's crossed out for some reason. I guess they don't want to whitewash SCP-130. When not staffed, 2 security agents will remain in the lobby, and 2 additional agents will patrol within the building. Agents are advised not to prevent people from entering the lobby, but to notify MTF Alpha 4 Pony Express to intercept anyone who receives mail or a package. Twice per day, bundles, 132, will appear in the mailroom. The parcels within the bundles are to be sorted by uniformed staff into appropriate bags and placed in a designated vehicle for transport to Site Blank. Should mail arrive with the following addresses redacted, follow procedure Franklin 16 detailed in Addendum 132. Otherwise, mail will be checked under standard practice for any items of interest. Objects are not to be placed for outgoing mail unless certified orders are given by 05 Blank. Procedure Franklin 17 outlines the protocol used in these cases. Should anyone else enter 130 to use the outgoing mail slot, they are permitted to do so, then intercepted by MTF Alpha 4 as soon as possible for questioning. The incident is to be reviewed through security tapes and the outgoing mail watched for in subsequent bundles and checked through the list of previous parcels delivered. Description: 130 is a post office in Blank, South Africa, constructed in 18-something. 130 had been closed in 19-something and left abandoned for some amount of years. The building is in excellent condition for its age and maintains itself without human intervention, including moderate structural repairs. 130 has been designated a historic site through an agreement with the South African government. 5 times per week at local sunrise and sunset, several bags and boxes will appear in the mailroom. The bundles designated 132 will show only on weekdays with the exception of current postal holidays for blank blank. Bundles are to be handled as per special containment procedures as above. Inside of the lobby, along with the post office boxes, is a slot label for outgoing mail. The slot is able to accept packages up to 40 centimeters wide and 6 centimeters high, with no apparent limit for length. Once inserted into the slot, packages disappear and will eventually turn up in the outgoing mail bundles if they have not done so previously. Addendum 131. SCP-130 came to the attention of the Foundation in 19-something when packages and letters began to be circulated bearing the postmark for the site. The parcels appeared in post offices throughout the world with correct postage for delivery either locally or internationally, depending on the parcel. The parcels were often undeliverable either to non-existent addresses or to recipients who were not at the address, and so ended up in dead letter offices. Various Foundation assets noted the odd postmark, and Mobile Task Force Alpha 4 mobilized to investigate. Alpha 4 arrived in Blank, where they discovered the town had been mostly abandoned decades ago. The post office appeared to be in excellent condition, not only well maintained, but clean. While Alpha 4 searched, bundles of mail appeared in the mailroom. Agents searched the bundles and discovered a variety of letters, parcels, and packages, all with that day's date and the postmark for that post office. Agent Blank attempted to open one of the parcels, which resulted in the agent vanishing from sight. 6 days later, a package appeared in Site Blank's mailroom. Inside of it was Agent Blank and an envelope with a receipt for postages due. Agent Blank had returned to sender and postage due tattooed on Blank back and was in a comatose state. Agent Blank had remained in that state until the envelope was delivered to 130's outgoing mail slot, whereupon the agent returned to consciousness with no recollection from the time of disappearance. Similar results also occur when agents try to take away or damage either the parcels or the post office itself. Further investigation led to the current containment procedures where Caucasian, crossed out, D-class personnel in blank uniform circa 19 blank sort through the mail when it appeared. Once processed and put in a marked blank vehicle, the mail can then leave the area unmolested. If the bundles are untouched, however, the bundles will vanish and later appear in the postal systems of the world in order to be delivered. 132. Through examination of the mail parcels over the past blank years, research has shown certain trends. Over blank percent of the mail is of a mundane nature except for the matter of the postmark. Exceptions to this are letters that were apparently unsent for whatever reason, and temporally displaced letters. The former, while odd, will be destroyed in an effort to protect the nature of 130. The latter will be examined and results submitted to redacted. Letters addressed to Foundation sites by personnel are to be sent to Site Blank, where they will be reviewed by Department Blank. Reports shall be classified under Project Blank, pending Overseer review. Procedure Franklin 16. When mail is specifically addressed to redacted, the mail is to be sealed in a case with active countermeasures and brought to the office of the present Level 5 130 Supervisor. Mail will then be screened for possible explosive, chemical, biological, mimetic, or redacted threats. After screening, the mail will be opened and assessed. With no new artifacts requiring secure containment have arrived, the possibility cannot be ignored. Mail either addressed to or intercepted by the office is often temporally sensitive, and as such impact must be minimized to limit changes. The possibility of the information being used to alter present-day events detrimentally must also be weighed. Using the information given by 130 to alter events requires a 2/3 supermajority vote by the Overseers. Examples of intercepted messages are stored within Document 131 and require Level 4 130 to access. Mail with the following code phrase, redacted, are to be immediately delivered after screening without being read by 5 130. After doing so, that code phrase is to be invalidated and the next one brought in line. Procedure Franklin 17. All outgoing mail is to be sent with appropriate current postage for blank at the time of sending and must be marked with the code phrase blank, redacted. The mail sent by this method is to be logged, then cross-checked with past parcels to ensure temporal integrity. Upon attempt at mailing, should a receipt appear for postage due, the amount shall be placed in an envelope and put in the outgoing mail slot. The slot will accept the following currencies: rands, euro, and blank. The use of counterfeit currencies will result in a lethal reaction by 130, and an additional fine will be levied until mail can be sent again. Addendum 133. At the end of Apartheid, 130 no longer restricts postal staff to be white only. What? What does that mean? South African English pronunciation. A system of institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination in South Africa between 1940 and 1991. Okay, so the post office was racist until South Africa was no longer racist. So, it literally was a whitewashed SCP post office until 1991. Incident 136. On blank 19 something, a package for one blank arrived with the address for a post office box at the site. Dr. Blank, the researcher assigned to 130, placed the parcel into the POB and waited. Blank minutes later, an unknown person identified as blank walked into the lobby. The subject appeared to be briefly puzzled and walked over to the box. The lockbox opened at his touch and he expressed surprise at seeing the parcel with his name on it. Alpha 4, being on site, was dispatched to investigate once the subject was out of sight of 130 and subsequently interviewed. The subject had no plans to visit blank that day, but had felt an unexplained desire to go there while driving nearby to visit family in the area. Upon opening the package, redacted. A Class A amnestic was administered to the subject and was released after memory insertion. I wonder what this is. It doesn't seem to be all that long. Okay. Executive Summary of Instances 132. To this date, there have been blank instances of 132 that fall under Procedure Franklin 16, and with certain exceptions, all have been reviewed by this office. Below are brief summaries of sample parcels addressed to persons of note both within and outside of the Foundation. Dr. Blank, M. Blank Blank E. Blank. mildly uncomfortable about the fact that that's my initials. Yeah, mildly uncomfortable. Okay then. Format, addressee, blank. Summary, blank. Notes, blank. Addressee, Dr. Alto Clef. Hey, it's that guy again. To this date, Dr. Clef has had blank parcels addressed to him in a variety of fashions, up to using valid code phrases per Procedure Franklin 16. In each and every case, these parcels have contained a wide variety of means to assassinate the good doctor, tied with either gloating, terse judgments, or even apologies. After blank deaths and some amount of money worth of damage to Foundation material, all missives addressed to Dr. Clef are to be thoroughly scanned and opened by remote under Hazmat 3 conditions, as per 05 Blank's orders. Due to the incident at blank blank 2000 blank, only D-class personnel should handle the mail and be within 50 meters until disposed of. Addressee, Dr. Agatha Wrights. Dr. Wrights has had a variety of greeting cards sent to her denoting such things as birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays such as Mother's Day, from blank, blank blank, and blank blank. Due to redacted, all such parcels are to be incinerated and under no circumstances are they to be mentioned to Dr. Wrights. Okay. Dr. King. Each Arbor Day for the past blank years, a variety of apple-based products have been mailed to Dr. King, including seeds, cider, and brandy. Every September 26th, a biography of John Chapman, aka Johnny Appleseed, has appeared. Notes. Christ, what did this guy do to 130? I don't even think he's been to South Africa. Okay, so, this is a good stopping point. What was that? The post office? So, yeah, we made it to SCP-130 today, starting at Fertile Soil. I always seem to make it 6 entries before it's been 45 minutes. Interesting. So, in the next episode, we'll start at the iPods and see how far we get. If it keeps to the way it's been, we'll probably get to the real toy. Although the fact that it goes from the naked doll to the real toy is ever so slightly disconcerting. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This is episode 39 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked this, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, then you don't have to do either one of those things. So, have a great one, and I will see y'all next time. Later.